Hello and welcome. This is Matthias 76, and together today we're going deep into the Word of God, all so that we might be prepared to decode the deception. We're in the book of Daniel. We're halfway through the 7th chapter, and I encourage you, if you have not yet, it's not an absolute necessity, but this video will be easier to understand. You'll get more out of it if you go and listen to the previous video. And you can get there simply by going to Bible Videos, Daniel. And when you do that, our Daniel page is going to pop up and you can click right here on this picture and it's going to open up the last video that we did on the book of Daniel. Or you can get there through the BitChute page, whatever works best for you. So we are here in Daniel 7. Let's see, get that tree. We are here in Daniel 7, and we're halfway through, pretty much exactly halfway through the 7th chapter. And in the first part of the 7th chapter, it was about the 4 beasts who come up out of the sea. And this is where Daniel's going to get the interpretation of that. But I wanted to put something out there as we think about this. It's always important to do everything you can to understand, to comprehend the context of what we're studying, what we're seeing, who it is we're learning from here. And the one primarily, the person the Lord is using to instruct us, to teach us, is Daniel. And it is my contention, my belief, that of all of the people in the Old Testament, it's hard to find anyone who was more of an exemplary believer, just an example for all of us. Daniel is an amazing guy, his faith and his companions as well, but his faith is impressive. How the Lord uses him is impressive. And I think that makes all the more powerful the fact that at the end of having all of this, the vision that he had in the first part of the chapter, and then having it explained, what is Daniel's reaction to the events that are going to play out in history in the future for Daniel going forward? And many of those events are still playing out for us now. The full culmination of those events is yet to come. Daniel's response is that it just wipes him out. He's exhausted. It takes everything that he's got. So I see that, and you have heard me say before, that we need to be ready to not cower in fear and dread, but be ready for what is happening and what is to come as we see in our lives. And it would seem that we are seeing events that indicate that we are closer and closer to the end. That if seeing it foretold was terrifying to Daniel and exhausting, that is a great indication of just how serious this is. And if that is the case, and I am not saying that we should be terrified, because that's not, and it doesn't say Daniel was terrified. It doesn't. It says, we'll get to it, but basically it just took everything out of him. Seeing this and having the interpretation and writing it down, it took everything out of him. It was a very emotionally and physically taxing experience for him. These weren't just like he was seeing pictures on a wall. He felt the terror that came and the fearsomeness of those beasts that he saw. Okay, so if that is, the point I am making is this. If that is the reaction that Daniel, this man of faith, had, and if you agree with me in my belief that we are here tracking and advancing closer and closer to the end, as we see the craziness of this world, the dissolution of society and order and governance, just madness all around, the working of chaos. If that is going on now, and if it terrified Daniel, what does that tell us about what we need to be doing? What does it say to us about how we should be living our lives, about what matters and what doesn't? How much time, and I'm speaking to myself as well. I'm always preaching to myself. So when I ask direct questions, understand I'm asking those questions first of myself. When I make condemning statements, I'm making them first to myself. You're just in the audience, so you're hearing it. How much time do you spend thinking about what matters and what doesn't? How much? Do you think about what things last into eternity and what things do not? And do you align and allocate your resources, your time, your being, your life accordingly? If not, then I encourage you to rethink the way you look at things. Because if this stuff scared the bejesus out of Daniel, if it wore him out, and we're going to live through it, then we better prepare. We better prepare. And we better understand what it is about. And I don't know about you, but I know that for me, if I stray away just a little bit from earnestness, true devotion in pursuing the Lord in his word, and that my walk of faith with him, and understanding what it is he would have me to know and how he would have me live. If I stray from that just a little bit, I am susceptible to deception and getting my view of things out of whack. And I start worrying about things that don't matter. And that is a trap of deception of Satan. I need to keep my eyes on my Lord, and I do that through his word. That is what we need to be doing. Let's jump in. As for me, Daniel, my spirit within me was anxious, and the visions of my head alarmed me. I approached one of those who stood there and asked him the truth concerning all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. These 4 great beasts are 4 kings who shall arise out of the earth, but the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. It is a pattern in the scriptures that when there are things that are alarming and overwhelming, that, with Abraham, things that would disturb him were distressing, God would come and reassure him of the promise. We see in the book of Revelation, again and again, God only lays out so much of the distressing, the disturbing, the fearful before he comes in again and gives a picture, a reminder of where things are going in eternity. And with that, right now in our study in the book of Revelation, I think we just put out I've got to count again. Maybe this time I'll write it down so I remember it. Put out the 46th video on Revelation, when we're just to Revelation 13, 11, and 12. But Revelation 13 is the 2 beasts. One of those beasts is an amalgamation of these 4, and that's verses 1 through 10. Verses 11 through the end, I think it's 18, are about the second beast, and that's what we're talking about now. But then, immediately after it, in Revelation 14, after these pictures and images of the beast, what does God do? He gives this picture of the Lamb and the 144,000 on Mount Zion, a picture of victory, a reminder of the eternal perspective that we all need to have. All of this that we see is going to pass away. It's all going to be gone. The enemies, the opponents of the Lord God Almighty will be dealt with. They will be judged eternally, and paradise and eternity forever with the Lord. Paradise with him is going to be ours. And how does this end here? Verse 18, just in the quick summation, but the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. It will go on for all eternity. Just as Jesus says in John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble. And really, John 16:33, it sums up this section of the book of Daniel. It sums up the entirety of the book of Revelation. In this world you will have tribulation, you will have trouble. But take heart, for I have overcome the world. That was what Jesus told the disciples before he really went into detail about his leaving and departing and his journey to the cross. My spirit within me was anxious, and the visions of my head alarmed me. This was all very distressing. And I approached one of those who stood there. It doesn't tell us who this is, but from what we see later, we can deduce that this is the angel Gabriel who speaks to him. Why? Let's look at what it says in Daniel 9:21. While I was speaking in prayer, the man, Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the first, came to me in swift flight at the time of the evening sacrifice. And if you look back through all of Daniel that precedes 9:21, the only person, the only instance that can refer to is this here in jumping between Daniel and Revelation. And in my head, I have to really work on saying the right book. Here in Daniel 7, verse 16. And he wanted an explanation. He wanted to understand what all of this meant. It is very complex. And the Lord uses in apocryphal literature, not apocryphal, apocalyptic literature, where things about the future, the end times, are being revealed to us. God uses pictures. And once we have an understanding of what the picture is, we can go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. These great empires, they are like beasts. They're fearsome and powerful, and they seek to dominate. Okay, I can understand that picture. But until you know it, and even if you do know it, it can still be very distressing. So Gabriel tells him, the angel tells him, these four great beasts are four kings who shall arise out of the earth. Let's talk about kings. If you, whoever you are in the audience, wherever you might be, if you got to sit down for a few minutes with Daniel, and it was your job to explain to him how the governments of the world today are run, how power is administered, how would you describe it? If you tried to describe the parliamentary system of Australia or Great Britain, or the bicameral houses of government in the United States, and the executive branch and the judicial branch, Daniel would have looked at you as, to quote a favorite Christmas movie, like you had lobsters crawling out of your ears. What are you talking about? Who's the king? That's what he would have said. Who's the king? Who's in charge? Who's the king? So it will use the term king to describe a government, because that's what Daniel and the people in his time understood. But as we move beyond the reign of kings, as we move beyond even Rome as it was constituted at its apex of power, then it's a different way of operating once you get well beyond that to our day. But king is the best way to describe it. Then I desired to know the truth about the fourth beast. This is the one he wanted to know about. The other three, and again, we'll pop it up here just so we've got a good picture of what these beasts that Daniel saw looked like. Make it a little bigger. Okay, this is it. These are the four beasts. This is Babylon. This is the Medes and Persians. This is Alexander the Great and Greece and what follows him. This is the fourth beast, fearsome and terrible. It doesn't say it looks like a dinosaur or a dragon or those things, but this is a good artistic depiction, rendering of a fearsome and terrible beast that is different than the others. And you see over here on the side, that's the wound that was healed, etc., that we deal with later. And it's got its 10 horns that are going to be referred to in Daniel and then also in the book of Revelation. Because the beast, the first beast from the sea in Revelation, is these four beasts smushed into one, and it's got 7 heads and 10 horns, and it's a really funky looking picture. But the one that Daniel wants to know about is the fourth beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying. I want to ask you this. If Daniel lived in Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar, under Belshazzar, and he knew the kingdom and power structure of the world as well as anyone. He knew terrifying and mighty nations and empires. He lived in one. He was living there when another mighty empire came and took over. He knew what fearsome was. Daniel thinks the fourth beast is different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet, and about the 10 horns that were on his head, etc. This beast was terrifying to Daniel. And he knew mighty empires. He knew all about that firsthand. So that tells us how fearsome this beast is. And it can be said, I'll put it out here again, this beast is rightly understood as Rome. It is the mighty empire that comes after these other empires. And unlike the other empires, it is an empire that never really went away. It didn't go away. It's still here. And it's shown it has 10 kings, 10 horns, which represent, we're told, 10 kings. What 10? You can, when people try to nail down who the 10 kings are, looking at the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, the lists are going to vary all over the place based on who you think important, great, and mighty rulers are, and depending on your time. People in the 1600s looked at this entirely differently than the way we would look at this. We need to understand its picture language and numbers. We'll see another instance of this. Numbers are often used symbolically. And the number 10 is the number of what? It's the number of completeness, of fullness. And it's obviously there's multiplicity involved here. So that there are 10 kings means that a lot of different powers are going to exist within this empire and rising from this empire. And just the part about the wound that, and this is in Revelation as well, that was healed, the wounded head that was healed. That's why we say that Rome never really went away. It seemed to have gone away, but it didn't go away. You want more detail on that? Listen to the Revelation 13 videos. Listen to last week's video on Daniel 7, 1 through 14. But this is a good depiction of Rome. Nobody crushed and conquered and stomped and dominated quite like Rome. They took everything that everyone before them had learned about architecture, about warfare, about organization, and they just brought it all together into one real beast system that when it was clicking, when it was operating well, even when it wasn't operating really well, no one could stand against. It says, and about the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn that came up before which 3 of them fell. The horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things and that seemed greater than its companions. So this horn is a different one than the 10. Let's hit real quick, and I'll keep it short. The 3 horns, I believe, are, and this is, I can't prove this, I can't say it dogmatically, but I think it easy to make an argument for these 3 horns representing power and the assertion of power are the 3 city-states that exist today that really do run the world. First being the Vatican, the second being the city of London, which is its own city-state. The Vatican is its own city-state, and Washington, D.C., which is its own city-state. And all of them, in their architecture, they seek to look just like whom? Rome. All of them working together seek to do just what this beast is described as doing. Teeth of iron, claws of bronze, stomping everything under their feet, dominating all around them. And a true, honest, unbiased, and remember, the history books that we read are written by those who would deceive us. If you just look at the data and look at the real information about the history of this world, we're not always the good guys. We're not always the good guys. But these 3 horns, and you can agree with me or not, that they are the 3 city-states that really do govern the world through the banking system, the economic system, and the military-industrial complex that exists today. These 3 horns fall. And the horn that had eyes and a mouth and spoke great things and that seemed greater than its companions comes along. There is a greater power coming that is going to take over everything. Do you hear one world government? Do you hear New World Order? Do you hear Skull and Bones, Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateralist Commission, Chatham House, the Royal Society, the Jesuits? They have no allegiance to any one country. It is about the organization of power and bringing it all together, which we have to suspect they're thinking they're going to bring about through something called, let's see, I think I've heard of this. I think our friends at the World Economic Forum have put it right out in front of us, the Great Reset. The people who tell us you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, that everything is going to change, that everything is going to come apart, and they will reestablish an order when everything is destroyed. And what is the motto of the Masons? Ordo ab chao, order out of chaos. They put it right in front of you. Same thing with Chatham House, that they'll remold the world closer to their heart's desire. there will be a kingdom and a king at the end who has eyes and a mouth. And what does he do? As I looked, the horn made war with the, let's see, get the right place. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn that came up, and before which 3 of them fell, 3 city-states, the horn that had eyes and a mouth and spoke great things. It will be impressive. The other horns are horns. This one's got eyes and a mouth. What does that mean? I don't know yet, but I want to be ready to understand it when I see it. But this thing's different. It's a different level of power here that's going to be visible with this. That's what I take away from eyes and a great mouth that spoke great things and that seemed greater than its companions, primus inter pares, above all the rest. And as I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them. What? And prevailed over them until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High. And the time came when the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus, he said, we'll get to that. I don't want to go any farther. How bad are things going to get? How bad are things going to get? I heard a speaker once, he was talking about business, and he made a good point. He said, people say to me all the time, he goes, they're whining about how things are going. And they say, it just can't get any worse than this. And he said, that is a challenge you don't want to lay down. Things can get really bad. Things can get really bad. How bad can things get? It can get so bad that from all outward appearances, it seems as though the church is undone. That the saints, believers, that's all saints means, that the saints have been defeated and that this empire at the end of time, whether it's ruled by one person, quite likely, a demonic force, a satanic force, it can get so bad that it will seem that they have won and prevailed over them until, doesn't mean the prevailing is complete. He prevails over them and he prevailed over them until. That means there's a line in the sand. Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And that's what's pictured there in Daniel 7, 9, and 10, with that throne room scene that God's there and all of his servants and the thrones are set up. And then what happens? The Son of Man is presented before him. And let's go look and see what it says about the Son of Man. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven. How does Jesus say he's going to return? Why did the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Jewish council freak out when he referred to himself as the Son of Man? There came one like a Son of Man, and he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. You are my son, today I have begotten you. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. These other kingdoms, no matter how fierce and mighty, they pass away. This one kingdom of this fearsome beast with 10 horns and one that rises up, finally with eyes and a mouth, boasting great things. It's going to be judged. We're told it's thrown into the lake of fire, along with the false prophet, which is another way of saying the second beast, another way of saying the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, the man of sin. And judgment is given to the saints of the Most High, and the kingdom is going to be ours. Let's see. He's going to go into more detail, so we'll just keep going. Thus he said, Gabriel, Thus he said, as for the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms. Doesn't go away. It operates differently. And it shall devour the whole earth and trample it down and break it to pieces. We see in prophecy levels of fulfillment. The Roman Empire controlled all the world as far as it knew. All the world that mattered, Rome controlled. But the time will come, and the ultimate fulfillment and manifestation of this beast, that it will control everything, everywhere. It will control what's used for buying and selling and who gets to buy and sell. And it will control through that by maybe who has a shot and who doesn't have a shot, and who's willing to bow down to the beast system and agree to operate by its rules. And if you don't, well, you can starve or go to a camp or whatever. There are levels of fulfillment of prophecy that we see as we move forward in time. And it shall devour the whole earth. And you look now between the United States, the tripartite city states that rule the world, what isn't under their control? And I don't have time to go into it all, but I can make the argument quite convincingly that they control everything. They control everything behind the scenes where things matter. They control everything and trample it down and break it to pieces. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom, 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from all the former ones, and he shall put down 3 kings. I've given my take on what that is, but another after them, another definitely makes it clear that this one's distinct and separate from the 10. He's a new cat altogether. And what does he do? And remember, levels of fulfillment of prophecy. We see it more fully and more fully and more fully. You can go through the Old Testament and see that about the coming of the Messiah and how things were revealed. He shall speak words against the Most High. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High. He shall almost exterminate them. He will prevail over them, right? And shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. But the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away to be consumed and destroyed to the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him, just the way it was supposed to be. And I read through this stuff, and I have to tell you, and don't worry, you can look at the length of the video. I'm not going to. We could talk about this all day. We could go on and talk about it because there's so much here to unpack and take apart. But this one horn, let's talk about it. He shall speak words against the Most High, and he'll put down 3 kings. He's separate and distinct from the others. He shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law. What does Satan do? He speaks against the Most High. He claims authority that is not his. He claims power that is not his. And this ruler here in this world is going to do the same thing. To what degree? And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. It is clear, and if it's not, then we're not paying attention. It is clear today that the greatest crime on the face of the planet isn't pedophilia. It's not lying. It's not perjury. It's not murder of millions of babies all the time. It's not child abuse. The greatest sin on the face of the planet today is holding to the truth. To just kindly, but clearly speaking the truth, which is to say the greatest crime on the face of the planet right now, and you better wake up to this if you don't see it, is being a child of God. It is the greatest crime in the world. It's against the law. The Christian faith has been outlawed. Sin isn't sin. It's a good thing. Sin is diversity. Perversion isn't bad. It's a celebration of love. That's what these perverts teach. But what I'm saying by their standards is against the law. They enforce that on YouTube. They enforce that on Facebook. How do you think things are going to go as we progress? Look at how things have gone over the last 10, 15, 20 years, the last 5 years, or 2 or 3. How do you think things are going to go? They'll wear out the saints of the Most High. The greatest offense is being you. You are public enemy number one. Do you think it's going to get any better? Neither do I. If so, prepare. Prepare. If you lived out in days of old, out in the wilderness when we lived subsistence living, if you knew the coldest winter of all time was coming, as soon as we got done with this church meeting, because we wouldn't be doing it electronically, you know what you'd do? You'd go home and you'd get your boys and you'd go out and you'd be chopping wood. And you'd be laying in stores of food. You'd be doing the other things you need to do to prepare. Well, if what I'm reading right here, right now is coming, I need to prepare. I need to prepare spiritually. I need to prepare because I was having a conversation with someone I talk economics with and finance with just yesterday. If this thing really collapses, and I see things that say the economy in the near future, meaning the next year or two, is going to come apart entirely. It can't help but come apart entirely with the way the world economic system works. If that happens, there's nothing to do financially to prepare for that. There's nothing to do. If everything you know comes financially and how things work, free market capitalism, which isn't really free market capitalism anymore anyway, but if the semblance of free market capitalism goes away, you know what we're all going to be? Because you don't know how to grow corn and you don't know how to hunt and you don't have animals out back that you can eat. You know what we're all going to be? We're all going to be dependent on them. Those who hold the power. Ergo, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and his clan over there in Europe, who say you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll live in a tiny house, which is a cargo container, and we'll feed you as long as you do what we tell you. You don't believe me? Go watch the video. You'll own nothing and be happy. Just type that into YouTube. It's there. All of this ties together. And they shall wear out the saints of the Most High and shall think to change the times and the law. Who gets to change time? Who caused the sun to stand still so the children of Israel could prevail in battle? Who created time? Who tells the proud waves, this far you shall come and no farther? Who puts the hook in Leviathan's mouth, the beast? And the beast begs for mercy. God does that. Do you know what the people who run this world today, and I'm not talking about the clowns that they put out in front, the puppets who they put out in front. I'm talking about the true power. And it's not George Soros. I'm tired of seeing things that George Soros is this mega powerful guy. He's an agent for the powers that be and nothing more. The Jesuits and the CFR and the trilateralists and the bankers, all of them, do you know the doctrine to which they hold? It is that of Hegel. Now, many of you have heard of the Hegelian dialectic, and it's very important because the Hegelian dialectic is what they use to manipulate, to get you to go where they want you to go. They've got a pre-planned solution. Let's call it an mRNA vaccine that, oh yeah, they were working on and had before the disease came out. And then they have the disease, and then everybody panic. Oh, there's the solution. We've come up with this shot. That they lead us around by the nose using that. And it was the thinking of a very evil man named Hegel, a philosopher in Germany. But that's not Hegel's main teaching. You know what Hegel's main teaching was? And it is the principle by which they operate. Hegel's main teaching was that the state is God. Hegel taught that the state is God. And so those who operate the state believe themselves to have the powers of whom? God. It's why they can operate the way they do and be so cavalier about the death and the pain and the suffering and the misery and the unhappiness that they cause. They feel themselves to be above it all because they think in serving their dark lord that they have the power of this world at their disposal. And they believe exactly what Hegel taught, that the state is God. And so the suffering that you feel when your family members take this shot and get sick or die of the disease or suffer economically because they play God with the world's economy, they care not at all because they feel themselves to be above it. They shall think to change the times and the law. They're playing God. And they're just a partial fulfillment of this prophecy. They are the precursor, the ones laboring hard to prepare the way for this horn with eyes and a mouth, before which three shall fall, and who shall speak proud and boastful and blasphemous things. He shall speak words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Notice it doesn't say defeat, but he can wear us out. Be ready. Prepare. Decide this day. Decide this day, just as Joshua told the children of Israel, decide this day whom you will serve. Decide this day whom you will serve. You're either going to serve the Lord God who has prepared your salvation and taking you to eternity, or you can serve the distracting, deceiving stuff of this world. And that's not easy to do. You know why? Because this all sounds good here on Sunday morning, which is when I'm teaching this. It all sounds good, but tomorrow the bell's going to ring. We're going to punch the clock, whatever our situation is, and we got to make a living. We need to be faithful. We need to be in the world and not of the world. We need to not love the things of the world, as John tells us in his epistles. Perspective. All of this stuff, don't let it make you motivated. Let it motivate you to change, to align, to pursue the truth, to say, Lord, help me. This should be my number one prayer. Help me be ready. Help me be ready to be faithful. Help me be ready to hold fast when the wind blows and the waves buffet and everything beats against the rock. But the house that's built on the rock stands. That's what I need to be praying. All the other stuff, and I can look at the economic stuff, and by my background, I've got a pretty good understanding on the macro level how it all works and how bad of a situation could be coming. I just need to worry about today. There's a reason Jesus told us, give us this day our daily bread. The Lord's going to take care of us, and maybe things will get really difficult. Whatever that is, it doesn't matter because we're his. The only thing that matters is that I remain his. And if I'm faithful, no matter what that entails, if I'm faithful, then I'm serving him and I'm giving glory to him and I am letting my light shine. And I'm not worrying about what I say when they drag me before powers and authorities, because the Holy Spirit in that very hour will give me what I am to say. I just prepare by being faithful. I'm digging down through all the junk, all the crud. Have you ever built a house, or have you ever built something and laid a foundation? You dig down through, and as you dig down through in the dirt, there's all kinds of stuff. There can be weird stuff. You find part of an old timber and some metal and some junk and whatever else. Clearing all that out in the picture Jesus uses with building your house on the rock, so you can get down to the bedrock. I need to make sure that I'm founded on that I've dug down to that, because if I am, and he's the rock, he's immovable. He's the Ancient of Days. He is the Son of Man, who in the end is going to come riding on the clouds to come back, and every eye will behold him, even those who pierced him. And we're all going to bow before him. We're going to bow before him in joy. He's giving us the kingdom. How many times does Jesus say that in the Gospels? It says it here in Daniel 7. The eternal kingdom and dominion he's giving to us. He's sharing with us. What can these evil, vicious clowns who rule this world do to take that away from me? They can do nothing. They can do nothing. They can cut me up. They can throw me in a dungeon. They can take away everything I have. They can do whatever they want. The kingdom mine remaineth. A mighty fortress is our God, Martin Luther's marching hymn. They can do all that. I need to be ready. You need to be ready. We need to be ready. And we need to be ready together. We need to support one another. We need to encourage one another. When you see a brother or a sister who's getting down, because guess what? Down happens. It's easy to think that because the way I teach and proclaim that I don't get down. Ask those who know me. I get down. I had a conversation with a family member yesterday about being down and keeping your perspective. And I was sharing with them words of comfort and encouragement. And in doing that, I reminded myself of the truth that I need to hold to. Life can be hard. And here's a problem. Here's a problem. We make the mistake in this day and age of thinking that we measure how much God loves us by how well things are going. How would that play out for Daniel? He got hauled off from home, and then they burned home down and killed a lot of the people who were still there, and he was made to serve here. What if Daniel measured how much God loved him by what he saw and what was going on in his life here in this world? Apply it to Joseph. How about John the Baptist? He must have really stunk at being a servant of God because he lost his head. He got thrown in a dungeon. He lived out in the middle of Bumbledum nowhere eating bugs and wearing camel's hair. Do you think John the Baptist, and do you notice all three of these that I've mentioned, Daniel, Joseph, and John the Baptist, sterling examples of the faith and faithfulness. And none of them for a moment measured how God felt about them by how things were going. And what do we do in our greetings? How's it going? Well, sometimes it sucks. That's how it's going. Sometimes my life feels like a dumpster fire. Sometimes nothing's going right. I know God still loves me. Maybe when things are hard, he's preparing us for what's to come when things get really hard. Because how will you do if it's all gone? I want you right now, stop, pause this thing after I say it, and look around your house. What if it's all gone? What if they take it all? Pull up your online brokerage account, your 401k. What if it's all gone? How are you going to do? What are you going to think? Are you going to think God has abandoned you and forsaken you? Because he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let God be true and every man a liar. He doesn't, how we're doing in life, and we're conditioned. It's been a corruption of Christendom, especially in the Western world. We judge how much we're loved by God by our bank account, by our success, by the love others have for us. And it's a trap. So Disassociate yourself from that thinking. Purge it. It takes work. It's an ongoing process. I struggle with it because we live in this world where I got to pay bills. I got to buy Christmas presents. I got to feed myself and my family. I got to fix my car. Purge yourself of associating your wealth, your worth in God's eyes with your wealth or lack thereof. And I can tell you, for the people in this world who've never had a bunch of stuff, I used to serve people in Peru, out in the middle of nowhere. It was easier for them to perceive these truths than it is for us because we're hooked on this stuff. It's really nice. It's a trap. And they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. That term is used, and if you listen to my Revelation videos, there are just, see all of these boxes here with blue? Those are all the times in the book of Revelation that phrase, time, times, and half a time appears. It appears as 3.5 years. It appears, actually, it doesn't appear as 3.5 years, but it appears as 42 months. It appears as 1,260 days. Time, a year, times, 2 years, and half a time. It's always just talking about the period of time, however long it may be, that evil's in charge of this world. The 1,000 years, the 1,000-year reign, that is referring to Christ's reign through the gospel. And both can go on at the same time. Because I ask you this, is Christ reigning, ruling in your heart through the gospel right now? Well, I hope so. I hope he's ruling and reigning through my heart, in my heart, through the gospel right now. And he is. Jesus' reign began when he walked out of that tomb. And it goes for all eternity. But time, times, and half a time, it reminds us, yeah, he's in charge, and it seems like it's never going to end, Satan over this world. But the time is limited. It's set. Ergo. But the court shall sit in judgment. That's what when the Ancient of Days appeared, and fire, and all those around him, and the thrones being set up there in Daniel 7, 10, and 11. Same chapter. But the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away. That evil little horn with a mouth and eyes that speaks boastful things and thinks he would change times and seasons, that he would be God, to be consumed and destroyed to the end, meaning ad infinitum. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. God, in the end, is sharing his rule and reign over all things with us. And that's too awesome to imagine. I have loved ones who have passed away in the past year and a half. And I think about, when I miss them, I think about what they're doing and how awesome it must be to be there in that everlasting kingdom. Just absolutely amazing things that await, and it's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. Scary stuff, but the comfort of what God has done, is doing, and will do far surpasses the difficult times that we have to go through. And it may seem trite, but I'm a movie nut. And I, like many, I love the movie Princess Bride. And Wesley and Buttercup go into the fire swamp, right? And she gets discouraged and thinks they're never going to make it. And he says, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically, we know the 3 secrets of the fire swamp. We're able to get through, and we'll come out on the other side, and my ship is there, and this will be but a memory. And that's the way we need to see the trials and travails and tribulation of this life. It's going to pass, and in eternity, a million, billion years from now, how much is it going to matter? We'll be singing God's praise around his throne, living in the perfect eternity that he has prepared for us. Perspective. Theme of the day, perspective. And Daniel says, here is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly alarmed me and my color changed, but I kept the matter in my heart. Just kept it in his heart. But we said, and I'm not pulling it up now, but you can go on our Daniel page down to the timeline. This vision came before Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. Do you think that his pondering on this, because that's what he did, if I kept the matter in my heart, that makes me think of Mary, who pondered all these things in her heart. As he thought about this and what all it meant, don't you think that that had an impact on how he viewed what happened in the lion's den? And it gave him peace. It gave him understanding. It gave him perspective. And here's something else as regards perspective. You are more blessed than Daniel. You're more blessed than Joseph. You're more blessed than David, than Isaiah, than Solomon, than Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Malachi. Take your pick. You're more blessed than John the Baptist. You know why? Because you live in a reality, you live in a world where all of this has been secured. Daniel was looking ahead. It was still, at the time of this event, it was still approximately 560 years until Christ would win the victory on the cross. I get to look back on it. And I've had the word that told me all about it from the time I was a child. That's a blessing. We have a level of security and comfort in this. Yeah, we're closer to these fearsome things at the end, but we've got a more full understanding of the foundation of our faith than Daniel could have. Peter tells us that the ancient prophets longed to see the things that we see. And Jesus said that, and know the things that we know, to see the kingdom come to fulfillment. It's an amazing, amazing blessing. But we do need to take to heart, allow these fearsome things to move you, to align your priorities and shape your perspective, because those are some of the greatest challenges that we face. We are going to stop here. As I told you, you can go down here on the Daniel page down to the bottom, and I've got these resources here for you. Here's the life of Daniel. Right click, open it in a new window. You can scroll around and you can see everything you can find out here on the website. You can find all of our Bible teachings, all the other resources that we have. They're here available for you, and I encourage you to make use of this resource. It's easy to find, decodingthedeception.com, and I encourage you to go out and check it out. I want to thank you for watching, and I do pray that this teaching, that this message was a blessing to you. If it is, then please hit that like button, give us a thumbs up. It makes a difference. While you're down there, subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure and hit that notification bell so that you're made aware when we put out a new video. And finally, share this video with someone else. You know someone who would benefit from hearing this message. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are going deep in the word so that we can decode the deception. God bless. And have a great day.